Howdy, dog world. Dave the Dog Man here. I've been working with dogs and owners since 2003. It's now 2021 at the time of this taping. Long time, lots of dogs, lots of fun people. The reason for this video, I have a friend of mine that has been working with dogs for multiple years in a boarding training type situation, but doesn't have a whole lot of experience in working with dog owners, which is my specialty. That's why I call myself a dog training consultant, because I like to consult not only dog owners, but also dog trainers that don't have as much experience. So he sent me a list of questions. I'm going to try to rip through these for him and also share them with you. Question one, how do you approach the topic of balanced training methods versus positive only method? First off, positive only trainers typically, not all, but typically the ones that I've studied with and researched, utilize food motivation mostly to get the dog to perform commands. They do not use any sort of physical redirection of any kind, no leash, no collar, no training collar especially. That's the big kind of soapbox there. The balanced training method typically does use leash and training collar, slip collar, pinch collar, e-collar, so on and so forth. And so these are the two kind of Republican, Democrat, type conversations that you get into. So what I've learned in the last several years is I'm not either, I'm both. What does that mean? Everybody's got their own training philosophy. We are saturated with information online now. Anybody can go onto YouTube, just like this, and get dog training information. So by the time a customer makes it to me, they already have their mind made up of what they think dog training looks like. So what I've done, not to pigeonhole myself, is I've said my philosophy is your philosophy. You tell me what you've researched, you tell me what resonates with you, you tell me what you're comfortable with, and I will tell you my experience with that, because I've trained with a lot of different trainers over the years, positive only trainers and also balanced trainers. So what I bring into the table is, this is my experience. If you want positive only, then I will be game to not utilize any type of leash and training collar, e-collar, slip collar, pinch collar. I've worked with many owners over the years that they say, I want positive only. Got it. We're going to get as much as we can possibly get. And then hopefully you get what you need. If not, then I'll make suggestions further on, and then you can decide whether you want to stay with that methodology or switch to a little bit more of a balanced methodology. What I found most of the time is people get to that certain point where the teaching phase is done. That's what positive only is superb for. When you go to PetSmarts and Feeder Supplies, for example, and you do the positive only clicker training, for example, it's also called marker training. I've got one in my face. Click, yeah, good. But at the same time, those are wonderful for puppies under 16 weeks when you're teaching. But then you get into reinforcement and distraction proofing. So the problem that you get into is your puppy's paying so much attention to something else, even though you're clicking and trying to give food and everything else. You've got to have some way to redirect their behavior away from what they're doing and back to you. You need to lower the value of the distraction and up your value. But if the puppy's value in that person or dog, etc., is so high, then our value drops. That food, it loses all its value. So with a leash redirection, it could be a regular buckle collar, martingale, you name it. I'll start redirecting the puppy away from the unwanted behavior, chasing after a dog or a kid, and then bring it back to me. So once I start lowering the value of that distraction, my value goes up. So that's my methodology in balanced training. Redirection with leash and collar back to me, but I will use whatever equipment my customers are confident with, comfortable with. If they don't understand them, I'll explain them, which will be in a whole different video. But balanced training versus positive reinforcement only, I always start with positive only. I want to help the dog. I want to guide them. I want to use food. I want to show them, look, this is a party. Let's have a good time. But at the same time, there's some point in training when I get past that teaching phase and into reinforcement where I start to utilize that leash and collar to redirect. It depends on the age of the dog, depends on the temperament of the dog, type of dog, what the customer is comfortable with. But remember, as a dog trainer, it's not you that's important. It's you've got to listen to what your customer wants, what they need, what their research is, and then you give them what they want. If you do that, then they're going to be more open to draw in to what other ideas and concepts that you have. All right, good, great question. Question two, How do you approach the subject of cost and affordability of training? My God, we are in a plethora of dog trainers right now. They're growing all the time. Thank God, because there's more and more dogs all the time. We are just post COVID puppy craze, so there's more dogs being adopted than ever before. Thank you. More dogs are being bred than ever before. So cost efficiently, what is the cost affordability of training? It depends on your client, depends on your area, it depends on what you're offering. What I offer is, again, over 18 years of experience at this point. I offer an in-home training service. So I come to you, depends on where you are. You gotta be within 20 miles from my home. If you're outside of that, there's a training fee, for example. The cost can really range. When I first started this company, it was $100 per session for just over an hour. With double dogs, that cost goes up a little bit. Usually it's an hour and a half, so you can see 150. That's where my business started. It's increased over time due to the fact of years in service, how much experience do you have, price yourself in a place that makes sense to you, that it's worth your while. And if a customer says, sorry, I can't afford you, then they can't afford you. But you've got to place yourself in a cost range that's competitive with the area. Again, I've looked at all of the other dog trainers in the area. I know what their cost range is. Again, I have more experience than a lot of the dog trainers that are out there, so I'm at a little bit higher end at this point. But at the same time, I've built my clientele over time and I've built my business. But first coming into the business, I'm at a low cost, premium service. I'm coming to you, and then over time, gradually increase it. All right, good. From there, how do you tactfully begin winding down a training session so as not to be awkward? I am the king of awkward. Embrace your awkwardness. The good thing is, you're a dog person. We got to get a way out. Somebody says, oh, it's kind of weird. Be like, yep, dog person, animal person. I'm telling you right there, you got a scapegoat. It's wonderful. So here's the key to that. I start and end the lesson the same way. The key for me is I've got a system. Here's the way in. What are your priorities, questions, anything come to mind? Do not say, how are things going? Don't ever say that. Because then you get the, oh my God, he's crazy. What are your questions? What are your priorities? Be very specific. At the end of an appointment, did I answer your questions? Did I answer your priorities? So if they say no, then we got a little bit more talking to go. But if I listen to what they want, not what I think the dog should do, not what I think that the household should do, not what my plan is, I've got to listen. What's your priorities? What's your questions? If when you leave, you ask them those questions, you think, and then also say, is there anything else I can help you with? Anything else? And if they say yes, all right, can we address that right now? Maybe. If not, why don't we start that at the next lesson? Oh, wow, I can't wait till you come back, Dave. It's going to be exciting. Thank you for all your help today. Thank you all. Enjoy your day. Please text me a question. I want to be very specific. Don't blow me up. 3, 4, 5 texts a day. You send me a question, I can usually get back to you within 24 hours. If that question's too big, I'm going to say, I'm sorry, we got to wait until that next appointment. But as to not leave a lesson awkward, I want to make sure, what are your priorities? What are your questions? Did I answer them? If I answer them, customer's happy. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye. And you're gone. All right. Hope I answered that. What is the best way to begin the first session with a new client? Well, I just kind of went over that. So make sure you know the priorities and questions. Also, super important, get to know the people a little bit. Get to know the dog. Ask the background of the dog. Is it a rescue? Is it did it come from a breeder? Have they had dogs before? People love to talk about their dogs. So again, give them a couple minutes to where you sit there and say, hey, you know what? What kind of dogs have you had in the past? What do you really like about this dog? Also, little trainer tip. When you walk into somebody's house, even before that, I look at my phone and I'm on my schedule and I say, I'm walking into a house of German Shepherd. What that tells me is typically the owner is a German Shepherd themselves. So know that. You got to know your dogs. If you know your dogs, then you know your owners. You get a little goofy golden doodle. Hey, what's up? Usually the owners, hey, how are you? They're very light and fluffy. You get a hound. I love you, hound people. But at the same time, hi, how are you? Okay. That's the hound. They're just more relaxed. They're a little bit looking around. All right, what are we going to do next? So you get a little pug that's just goofing all over the place a lot of times. So are the owners. Not always. But traditionally, the way that, I got a little off track there, the way that you're going to know to weigh in with that new client is what kind of breed is it? Where did the dog come from? What's the background? Have they had dogs before? Kind of break open that conversation. The other conversation is asking the people what they do for a living. Super important. Here's why. Depending on the person, if I've got an engineer versus an artist, that is two totally different ways I'm going to talk to them. An artist, traditionally, again, I'm generalizing here, but is very creative. They're more of this wide open mindset. You can really kind of flow in conversation and they'll follow you and be creative and very descriptive. Most engineers, not all, most engineers, for example, they want facts. They want details. They want A, B, C, D. They want a system. So when I can get into that system, next thing you know, I'm running straight ahead. My favorite people to work with are other behaviorists, therapists, teachers, you all are therapists, any type of psychologist, psychiatrist. Then I can nerd out a little bit. I can talk about the amygdala, the back part of the brain, the emotional center. When dogs are overly stimulated, they're not actually thinking, all the blood rushes back here. Or if they're being aggressive, the blood's back here. And I can talk about why it's important to get them to start thinking and focus on manners and formal commands. And so that way it goes into the prefrontal cortex and then the anterior cortex, which actually blends the two. The dog can be excited, but also still thinking. Now, if I walk into a house and I'm walking in with the therapist, I can have that quick conversation. It's a way to super connect with them. So then they know, okay, we're talking some same language here. If you don't know that information, that's why you call me and I can help you with that or do your research. From there, so the best way to start a session with new client, get to know the dog better, get to know the client better, ask just general questions. So that way you got a good connection piece on the way in. And don't forget that stuff on the way through, because then as you're teaching, that'll come up. And also what we talked about earlier, the kind of the awkward exit. Remember, hey, it was really nice to work with you. I hope everything goes well at your business tomorrow. Thank you for your service if they are a police officer, first responder, just general cues. All right, how to begin a follow-up session with a client. So going back to what we talked about earlier, if I'm going in for a follow-up, hey, this is what we covered last time. Are you clear on what we covered last time, your questions and your concerns? And if they say, or questions and priorities, trying to say concerns, questions and priorities. If they say, yes, I'm clear on that, or no, can you go back over that? So that's my lead in. So I'm going to do a review of that last class. I'm also going to ask them their takeaways. That's a big one. And a lot of times I'll do that at the end of the first session too. So I'm going to ask their takeaways, what they were clear on, what they weren't clear on. So again, I'm trying to reconnect with them. I'm trying to find where they are in the training process. So that way I've got my starting point moving forward. So the best way to begin a session, remember some of those details if you can about what they do for a living, etc. It's hard. If you make notes, make notes. I'm terrible about making notes. I'm not going to lie. I try to fly things off the cuff probably a little bit more than I should, but I've also been doing this a long time. So if you are brand new into this, make some notes after the session, what you covered, what you're going to start off with next time. So those notes will really help you. And any personal anecdotes, if you had some jokes or some laughs, which hopefully you do, I try to have as much fun as possible. That's for me and for them and for the dog. So how do you begin a follow-up session with a client? Review, and then make sure that you know where they are, and then ask the questions and priorities of that day, and then boom, back into that same run. All right, what is the best method for dealing with clients who are apprehensive to use any type of, well, the word here is correction-based training. So yes, there is a correction in there. One of the things that I've taken out of my language for the most part is the word correction. Why? Yes, there is a part of dog training that is a correction. Well, if you believe in balance, even with positive reinforcement, that's a different video. So if a dog is moving towards me and I'm going to move into them, I'm putting body pressure on them. I might bump them with my knee if they try to jump on me. I might scuff their toes, back them off. I might use, but that what you're doing is you're redirecting the behavior. Dogs put pressure on us, we put pressure back on them. So you're redirecting that behavior. Once they got all four on the floor, they stop jumping on you, positive reinforcement kicks in. Is that a correction? Sure, you could say that. But at the same time, you're redirecting the behavior. It's not just a correction. If I just stand here and bump them with my knee and then I don't do anything else, then I'm just correcting them. But I'm trying to redirect them into the behavior that I want, and then positive reinforcement kicks in. If they try to bolt on me with leash and I try to redirect them with the leash, am I just correcting them and standing there? No. I am constantly trying to redirect their behavior, redirect off of the unwanted behavior back to me. It's not just a correction. Dr. Carl Jung talks about emotional displacement and emotional rearrangement. If a dog is staring at another dog and all of a sudden he bolts and all you do is correct him back, you just bottled up all that energy right into his stomach and he's still staring at him. Imagine you're getting in an argument with somebody and you're sitting there staring at that person. Can you calm down? No. And somebody says, I'm going to hold you back. All right, you hold me back, but I swear to God, boom, I'm going to take off. But if somebody walks you away from the situation, then you can start to calm down a little bit. They're redirecting all of your energy. Same thing I'm doing with a dog. Is there a correction in there? Sometimes, because a dog might lunge, and then when I turn, bloop, there's a quick tug and release on that. What is a correction? Basically, the body correction we talked about and redirection. Dog, most of you know this, but pack leaders will actually bite a dog on the side of the neck to correct them. We'll actually back them off. So what we're doing is very similar to the pack leader with this leash and collar. But even the pack leader doesn't want to do damage. He needs the pack member. So he's only going to put as much pressure on him as he has to. So when I talk to my owners, they say, well, I don't want to correct my baby. I understand. I don't either. It sucks. I wish I didn't have to do it. But if he eats that tinfoil over there, he's going to get sick. We're going to have a $3,000 vet bill to open him up and take it out. I don't want that. Owner says, I don't want that either. Good. So we need to use this leash to redirect them. Stop the unwanted behavior, come back to the wanted behavior. The word correction, if they say, are we correcting him? Yes, there's a correction in there, but that's not the focus. The focus is get your mind off of that and back to me. I'm telling you, owners say, well, that makes total sense. Just like a small child walking towards a hot oven. If they don't understand coddling, no, quit it, stop it, you have to physically move them away from the oven. And as you move them away, what are you doing? Redirect, and they keep trying for it. Hey, Billy, next thing you know, is that a correction? Is you're moving them away? Yeah, but you don't have a choice. The kid keeps putting more pressure. He's really pulling towards the oven. You think, I got to get you away. I don't have a choice. I wish I could just say, hey, please don't go towards the hot oven. And they understand. It's great. But puppies don't understand that. So we've got to use that leash, and older dogs especially. Oh, that's a whole different conversation. But we got to use that leash and collar to redirect them. Great question. So to answer that as simply as possible, I use the word redirection. Redirect with leash and collar, redirect with body. How do you introduce remote training collar? So remote training collars, e-collars, unfortunately people call them shock collars. So remote collars. First off, it is not a shock collar. It does not shock them. It's not a defibrillator. Clear? No. All it does is make muscles tense up. It's a TINS unit. If you go to the doctor or chiropractor, they're going to put these electrical patches on you. It's going to make that muscle stimulate. That's all it does. But if you turn it up high enough, it bites a little bit. Invisible fence collars. They are everywhere. Thousands, tens of thousands of them. Somebody says, I don't like those remote shocker collar things. Do you have an invisible fence? Well, yeah. Well, you got the same thing. It's only that TINS unit, that muscle stimulator. So I don't say it like that, but you have the same thing. So if you have an invisible fence, you're already using that technology. This is just a remote collar version of it. So you simplify it by saying this is a muscle stimulator. You also say invisible fences are the same thing. This is only a remote version. They might say, I don't like that. I'm not going to use it. And you know what I say? Okay, we won't. And then a situation might present itself later where they say, I'm really having a difficult time in this situation. I will then say, it's a tricky situation. Dog's at a distance. They're in the backyard. You're inside. You're drinking your coffee. They're digging their way to China. It's really hard to stop them. Well, how can we stop them? Well, one way, I know you don't want to use it, But one way is a remote collar if you wanted to. It does have a vibration feature on it. Some dogs, you hit the vibration, they stop. It's enough. They're like, oh, I tap, I'm done. But other dogs, you might have to use the stimulation. So that vibration feature is another way out. Wait for situations that you may introduce that concept again. I will not say remote collar more than 3 times in a session. You get into that 4th time, guess what happens? Now they think you're pushing it on them. Now they're going to start really pushing back. But if you just slide it in there a few times, it's a TINS unit, same thing as invisible fence. We don't have to use it. It even has a vibration feature on it. A lot of those slight conversations will build up over time. I've had customers I've gone in 2-3 times for lessons that were like, no, I'm not using it. No, I'm not using it. By the time the 4th lesson, they ask me, you remember that remote collar you were talking about? Do you think we might be able to use that? Do you think that would still be a good idea? Yeah. All right. So I'm having fun here. How do you approach asking your customers to promote your business through word of mouth? Ooh, that's a big one. So you don't. That's how. How do you come on to promote your business through word of mouth? Your work speaks for itself. If you are courteous, if you're listening, if you answer their questions, if their priorities and are met, if the dog is healthy and happy and the people have a good conversation with you and they welcomed you into their home and their lives and they think, this was really a lot of fun. Even though the dog might have gotten this much better in the training session. This is super freaking important. A grain of sand to build a sandcastle. The dog stopped doing one behavior, even though in your mind, I know I could have taken care of 5. I know I could have got them walking better. I know I could have got this. I know it. It has no bearing on what you do in that lesson. You have to listen. You have to watch. You have to read body language of the owner. You really have to say, all right, they're getting enough that they're going to hire me back. If they hire you back, guess what happens? Somebody's going to come over. The dog's not going to jump on him. Next thing you know, wow, your dog didn't jump on me this last time. Little Fifi was all over me. Yep. Well, how'd you do that? So-and-so told me. Dave the dog man, he came over. He was here for an hour, and it was unbelievable. We had a great time. It was fun. And now I understand how not to get my dog to jump on other people. That conversation, here's what I want to leave you. That person that's in that person's house that didn't get jumped on, guess what? They have 5 friends. Even if that person never calls you, when they go see those other 5 friends and somebody's dog is jumping on them, I remember I went over to Sarah's house and Fifi wasn't jumping on me anymore. Who did she use? Oh yeah, it was that Dave the dog man. Boom, that's another one. That person has 5 friends. That person has 5 friends. Each one of your client is worth 200 clients. Do not forget that. Treat every client like it's your only one because you are actually talking to 200 people. It filters out over time, especially with social media. And that's good and bad. That's another reason why. Watch what you say, watch what you do. Be cautious, be mindful, take a step back, relax, and make sure you're giving them what you want, not pushing too hard, too fast. So how do you promote your business through word of mouth? You don't ask them, it'll happen. I think you get it. How do you close a sale with a client says who I need to discuss with my spouse? That's tricky. So a couple things. It is a way out. Sometimes people they don't like what you say. They don't feel comfortable. They don't like the training methodology. They just feel that it's not the right fit. So instead of saying, which I appreciate when somebody says, hey man, I love what you're offering. It's just not for me. I had a client do that the other day actually. I don't offer boarding and training. And I worked with them one time and they realized that what I'm doing as a dog training consultant, I'm teaching the owner to train the dog. They messaged me and said, Dave, thank you a lot. I know we set up 2 more sessions, but here's the thing. We just need some sped up training. We don't have the time. We both work full time. We got 3 kids. I really want to do some boarding and training instead. I loved it. Thank you for being honest. Thank you for telling me what you need instead. She did say we might do some follow-up after the boarding and training. Great. My response, get what you need. And then when they call me back, if they call me back, great. But remember, they got 5 friends. So they may not use me again, but my name's out there. So don't forget that. So if they need to talk to their spouse, that's a polite way to not say what I just said. Some people just don't have that fortitude. So they're a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit, I'm not sure if I want to do this or not. I need to talk to my spouse. You let it lie. You let people do what they're going to do. If they're going to hire you, they're going to hire you. If they're not going to hire you, they're not going to hire you. What happens is an insecurity gets kicked in. Well, what did I say? What did I do? Oh my God, I didn't mean to upset you. And holy cow. And you're just telling yourself a story. Here's the cool part. You know what happens 4 times out of 5? They really have to talk to their spouse. They really do have to say, you know what? I'm not the money person in the house. I got to make sure that the money clears with him or he or she. And the next thing you know, they call you back. Hey, I talked to so-and-so and I want to hire you and let's rock and roll. Fantastic. I just had a guy contact me. I talked to him last December. It is April. Next thing you know, he said, hey, my wife and I discussed it. We'd like to start training. I know it took a couple months, but here I am. Oh, okay. So you do not know when that will or won't come through. So it could be a polite way out. They're just not feeling the vibe. And if they're not feeling the vibe, you don't want them anyway. Don't ever push to get a client. Don't ever hard sell. I never have. And my business has done nothing but grow. If you don't say like what I'm saying, if this isn't a fit, I'm good with that. They still had a conversation with you. You still left a good taste in their mouth. They still said, you know what? I like him, but at the same time, it's just not for us. They got 5 friends. One of those friends comes to them. They say, you know what? This David Dogman guy, I liked him. He was a good guy. It wasn't for me, but he might be for you. So don't forget, they're going to talk to other people no matter what. And if they're going to talk bad about you, you can't stop that either. So just do the best you can. Stay true to yourself. All right. What is the best way to get new clients? We've talked about that quite a bit. So we live in a marketing age. Social media, yes, but honestly, I am super involved in the community. I'm part of multiple different nonprofit organizations, multiple different communities of people, a yoga community, for example. Something called F3 that I do, a bunch of guys over there I work out with at 5:30 in the morning. Sometimes love those guys to death. Part of a local church. What else? I don't know. If you're an entrepreneur, then if you're doing all the marketing yourself, get involved in your community. Let people see your face. Let people see how you act, how you interact. I tell you, a really cool place to go get clients, take a walk at the park with your dog. They see your dog under good control. Wow. I have a dog trainer pouch on. I kind of stand out a little bit. This is for lineage of my family coming from Texas, but at the same time, people don't forget that. If something catches their eye, especially your dog's behavior out at the park or in the neighborhood, have some business cards with you. Wow, I wish to God my dog would do this or do that. Hey, by the way, here's my business card. I've been training dogs for, blah, 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 blah. And I would love to help you. If you need anything, shoot me a message. I'd love to set up a free consultation with you. Or heck, I can talk to you about it right now if you got a minute. Boom, conversations are running. But you got to get out. It's tricky in the last year and a half because of COVID, but it's getting easier. So new clients, get involved in the community. Meet as many people as you can. Remember, 5 and 5 and 5 and 200. But you got to get your face out there. Get involved in as many different groups as you can for 2 reasons. 1, yes, you're going to meet people. Yes, that clientele base is going to grow, but you're going to be giving back to the community. And that's where this whole other level of being of service to others are of service to you. So I don't want to get too far off on that. Anyway, give back. Give back when you can, because I have a fun saying, it's what goes around goes around. Because as soon as it comes back around to me, guess what? I'm going to let it keep going. So treat people right, treat them with respect, get your face out there, have fun, use social media to your advantage. I don't know if I can say never. I haven't invested much money in social media, but I post constantly. Once my clients are on there, hey, will you like my social media page? Sometimes I'll ask them that. Sometimes they just follow me anyway. I don't have a huge social media following. I get some business from that. But that's hard business too, because usually that's a cold call. Referrals. And 95% of my business comes from referrals. So how do you get new clients? Treat every client like they're your only client. When I first started this company 2 years ago, I had 3 clients. I am running, I don't even know how many right now. Let's say it's between 60 and 100. Just because of what I mentioned. I'm just treating every client like they're my client, and I would treat other people like I want to be treated. Be kind, be generous, be loving, be compassionate. Give them what they ask for. If I don't leave you with anything else right now, listen to what they say and get as close to that final product, or give them an idea of when they'll get to what they need. Give them pieces in that direction. As long as there's progress, my favorite word, one of my favorite words, I got a lot of favorite words, progress. As long as there's some progress, you're going to see some kickback. All right? Thanks for listening to me. I hope you got something out of this. Dave the Dog Man, I'll bark at you later.